Hi friends, as always I'm very excited to see you here. If you're meeting for the first time, I'm Uma Shankar Pandey and this is the Dr. USP channel. I host videos on media, communication, statistics and research on this channel. To stay updated with the latest on this channel, I urge you to consider subscribing to the channel. Communication models were extremely popular in the 1950s and 60s, and they described all kinds of communication situations from simple to very complicated ones. George Gerbner's model of communication is one of the most popular ones. Let's see Gerbner's model of communication in this video. There are two dimensions of the Gerbner's model of communication. One is the perceptual dimension, the other is the means and control dimension. The Gerbner's model of communication can be used to describe both interpersonal and mass communication processes. The communication process begins with an event E. How the communicating agent M perceives this event E and how he uses his reflection, sensory, creative or cognitive conditions for reconstruction of this event E is what makes communication possible. So we begin with an event E. The first part of the model is transactional. E1 is primarily regarded as a function of M, the communication agent. So it's regarded as a function of M's assumptions, point of view, experiential background and other related factors. What E1 will look to M depends on factors within or tied to M. So there is this event E and there is this perceptual dimension, which is the relationship between communicating agent, which is M, and the world of events. Now how M sees E, which is shown as E1 inside M, as you can see on the right side of the screen, depends on three factors. It depends on selection, context and availability. What will be perceived by M is determined by his or her way of selecting, the context in which the E in question is to be found, and the degree of availability of this and other E's. Selection is an individual factor and depends on one's predispositions at times. Context may be subjective and availability is often an external factor. Then we have the means and controls dimension, which is the relationship between the communicating agent M and the communication product, and this shapes the semantic content. So M perceives E as E1 and based on the access, channel and media control, which are means and control dimensions, he creates a content SE. S stands for form, E is content. In the next step of the model, it is assumed that M wants to communicate about E1 to someone else. M produces message SE, which is a statement about the event. Here S stands for shape or form while E is content. Gerbner notes that S never stands by itself unless it signifies noise. It is always coupled with E, the representational content qualities of the signal itself. To send the SE, as we know the communication is SE, M is dependent upon channels, media over which he has control to a higher or a lower degree. Those with better access to media find it easier to send their perspective of the message conveniently, while those who have limited access to media channels find it difficult. So this is the complete Gerbner's model. Starts with an event E on the left side. Then there is the perceptual dimension, which is selection, context and availability. And M perceives E as E1. Then we have the means and control dimension, which is access to channels and media control. And then it is sent as SE to the receiver. The message SE may in its turn be perceived by another communication agent M2 in the same way as E was perceived by M as E1. Here it will be perceived as SE1. We can now see how the model is built up as a perception, production, perception, change. This model suggests that the human communication process may be regarded as subjective, selective, variable, and unpredictable, and that human communication systems are open systems. The perceptual and control dimensions can be extremely varied and unpredictable. The flexible character of this model makes it useful on different levels. On the individual to individual level, it may, for example, be useful to illustrate communicative and perceptual problems in the psychology of responding to the same piece of information, or the response to information that is regarded as dubious, for example. Dennis McQuills provides an interesting example of a court witness in this regard. The witness M sees an event E as E1 based on his perceptions and expresses it as SE. The judgment will depend on how adequate is the perception of witness M of event E, and how well is E1 expressed in SE, and to what degree does the perception of SE1 of judge M2 correspond to SE. On a societal level, let E be potential news or just reality. Let M stand for mass media, SE for media content, and M2 for media audience. The media makes a choice about which E to choose based on a number of factors, and then constructs a content SE where the form S may stand for how the news is framed. We then have a model that gives us the possibility of asking questions such as how good is the correspondence between reality and the stories, between E and SE, about a reality given by the media M, and how well is media content SE understood by the media audience M2. The two different approaches to perception discussed above may easily be exemplified in mass communication research, in which given stimuli were expected to produce a predictable quantity of response. Often, contemporary research readily accepts the transactional way of looking at perception.
Thanks for staying along, friends. As always, it was a delight having you here. I'll be back with another video very soon. Till then, have a great time.